Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another INART 112 scale Batman figure unboxing and review. Today, we're taking an early look at their 112 scale Arkham Origins Batman. I cannot wait to get stuck in. Before we get started though, I want to say a massive thank you to Matthew, Johnny, the team over at INART for making this video possible, for sending me out this pre-production sample. If you'd like to pre-order your very own copy of Arkham Origins Batman, I've popped a link to INART's site direct in the description, and another one to Pop Collectibles. Just because of the way this has been licensed, if you're outside of China, Australia, or New Zealand, you won't be able to buy direct. You are going to need to go through a different site, like for example, Pop Collectibles. If you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as brand new INART 112 scale content goes live. You know what, it's about darn time Arkham Origins is getting its flowers, because this is a great game. I remember loving it when it came out, I've played it countless times since, and we've all collectively been waiting for that definitive Arkham Origins Batman figure. I had the DC Direct one when it came out, but it simply fell apart over the years. I'm waiting for a 1/6 scale version of this guy, but you know what? I will take what I can get at this point, because it's slim pickings when it comes to Arkham Origins Batman. As for the box art, there's some printing errors that I would imagine are going to get fixed when this works its way through production. But up front, awesome shot of Batman from the game, and I'm loving that snowy blue tinted effect to all of the artwork on the box. Arkham Origins logo up top, then his name. Now, underneath it, it specifically calls out standard version. That is one of the printing errors. There is no deluxe, so don't freak out if they don't correct this and yours says standard. You didn't accidentally get a lesser one. There's only one version of Arkham Origins Batman. This video is brought to you by JustinsCollection.shop, the home of the figure first aid kit, as well as other accessories to help your collection be the best it can be. The first aid kit contains multiple tools to help you with maintenance, styling rooted hair, and much more. We also sell crotch grabbers, soft rubber tips to prevent damage, and they're compatible with most modern Hot Toys base molds. Acrylic risers come in multi-packs. They're optically clear, thick and sturdy, and stackable. Check out the link to JustinsCollection.shop in the description. Look at that cool, broody image of Batman. There's little specks of snow dotted around the place that fits the Arkham Origins aesthetic. Then we've got that Bat logo up top with Batman in the middle, surrounded by the assassins and the other villains from the game. So this is another one of the printing errors. You may have spotted it in the intro, but this is the front cover. Flip it round, and the back of the box is upside down for now. Very easy for them to correct. It doesn't actually change anything about the figure inside, just, something to note. On the back, warnings, legal information, and a Gotham City skyline at the bottom. You all know that feeling when you've been waiting for something for so long and you've given up hope and you think it's never going to happen, and then it finally does? That's what this feels like for me. First in-hand impressions for INART's 1/12 scale Arkham Origins Batman. So far, so freaking good. Beautiful feeling cape, so much detail on the outfit, and that head sculpt, chef's kiss. What we're going to do now, though, is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box. Don't worry, there's another layer underneath this top clamp tray, and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first. I'm not sure why the change. Why did they change their 1/12 scale base design from what we got with their Dark Knight Batman to this translucent plastic circle? Don't get me wrong, I like the look of it. The functionality of it, you can put multiple flight poles up top. Batman versus Deathstroke comes to mind. In midair, that would look sick. But I much prefer the rectangular bases with the real metal nameplates. Maybe this is meant to replicate the shockwave effect when Batman lands on the ground and uses his cape to stun enemies, but I'm not entirely sure. As for the flight pole, visible screws, you can tighten them if they loosen up over time. Multiple points of articulation, and a waist clamp up top. Now, this is interesting, but I sort of like the approach. Instead of giving us switch out mouth plates and one head sculpt, we've got two completely different sculpts, because they've tailored the expression for the cowl to the expression of the mouth plate. The standard one looks more neutral, whereas the angry one has this very intense furrowed brow, and his eyes are a lot more squinted. But let me just say, the detail on the mouth plates is crazy. We'll dive in deeper when we pop these on the figure a little bit later. Let's go through Batman's gadgets rapid fire style. The cryptographic sequencer even looks like it has some sort of battery compartment on the back. The painted nuts and rivets, the little details dotted around the place. I do wish there was a translucent plastic screen we could pop up top, but this, I guess, is sculpted and painted to look like Batman has just opened it, but he's not activated it yet. GCPD Disruptor, don't freak out, this is not a gun. We all know Batman doesn't use guns. This actually disarms guns in the game. Little separate PVC plastic wire, be careful of that, but it's painted in gunmetal with some pops of silver and matte black for the handle. But only one Batarang. I would have liked at least 3 of these. The Arkham design for Batarangs still so iconic. Another iconic Arkham gadget, the explosive gel. I'm nervous about that trigger at the bottom, but I've popped this in his hand already, and I've had no problem so far. But this is my favorite accessory of the lot. We've got the grappling gun. Once again, another iconic Batman gadget from the games, but you can remove the hook. There's a real metal rod inserted at the base of it, and we've got a switch out longer one, plus another spare shorter one. So you could do this, make it look like he is firing the grappling gun. This combined with the flight stand, yeah, it's going to make for some very fun posing, I think. And lastly, a very full array of hands. There's one more gadget, but it's attached to Batman's hands. You'll see what I mean. Matte finish, so much texture for the inner part of the gloves, then this shiny, dark gunmetal armor plating with some silver speckling over the top. Just makes that hand armor look gritty and weathered like Batman has been kicking ass, and we know he has. 2 trigger finger hands, and the fingers are soft enough you can pry them open to pop the gadgets in there, easy as. 2 more trigger finger / gripping hands. Slightly different gestures though for different gadgets, of course. These may look like closed fists, but they're not. There's slots up top to pop the Batarang in them, so they're Batarang holding hands. Then a relaxed-ish open palm hand, wouldn't have minded 2 of those. And a smoke bomb holding hand. The smoke bomb is not removable, it is permanently affixed to this hand. What we're going to do now is get Arkham Origins Batman himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that for now. Stay tuned, at the end of the video, that's when we get dynamic with him, bust out the moving camera, it will be worth it, I promise. Oh my word, INART, you're cooked with this. Look at that piece on the turntable. That is not the character model from the game. That is a 1/12-ish scale figure. The proportions, the detail on the outfit, the paint applications, the head sculpt, the cape. There's not a single thing, except for maybe the scale, where I think they dropped the ball. Like, just right off the bat, yes, pun intended, the presence is undeniable. When you get this thing, you will be blown away, I promise. Up close and personal, kicking things off with this glorious Arkham Origins sculpt. We'll move on to the angry expression one in a second, but starting here first, it is perfect. From every angle, that looks spot on to me to the character model from the game. The skin texture, the sculpted stubble, you can see that raised on the surface, the green shading. He looks like he's just freshly shaved, and the rosy tint to his cheeks, making him come across slightly frostbitten or cold because this game was set in the winter. Plus, the squinted look for his eyes in the cowl. You can still see them. There's a gloss finish to them, but they're more squinted, so when you tilt his head forward, he looks absolutely pissed. Oh, this one is even fiercer. The teeth, they're not just stark white either, they're slightly tinted, and you can see the line work in between them. They are beautifully well painted. The eyes have this very sharp blue to them. They're really small in that squinted area for the front of the cowl, so you can't really see them super easily, but right there, I think the blue is coming across. The difference with the front of the cowl is very subtle across both of them, but when you get this guy in hand, you'll see what I mean. There's this scrunched up look to the front that's more prominent on the angry cowl versus the other one. But for me, it's all of the different textures on the surface of the suit. The smooth cowl contrasting against the panel-lined, mesh-looking neck piece that goes up underneath it. Then this leather grain texture on the base of the cowl with the silver studs up front. The smooth chest plate, the airbrush shading around the edges, the sculpted straps for the shoulder pads. We'll talk about the construction of it in a second. The honeycomb pattern on some of the other armor pieces. It looks like it would be visually too busy to work, but somehow it just does. I think it's the color breakup as well. The gunmetal utility belt, the bluish grey armor, and they've used black strategically along with the shading. It's that really fine level of sculpted texture like on the gauntlets. Then the silver dry brush just picks it all up as they've painted this on the back of the hands as well, on the blades. They're soft PVC plastic for those wondering, so even if you bump them when posing him, I don't think you're going to break them. But back to the shoulder pads, they're on these floating rings of sorts with sculpted detail on them. They move around quite freely. We'll see how they impact articulation a little bit later in the video. But it's the fidelity, that's the word I'm looking for, of all of the sculpted detail that just sells this 1/12 scale piece. The wrinkling more reveals itself as you rotate the thigh armor, and that is a very clever design, by the way, because you can rotate the hip joint, but then the thigh independently, and the armor plating just sits over the top. It looks natural, nothing is broken up when it comes to the sculpt. More wrinkling on the thigh armor itself, honeycomb patterns on the blue/grey armor sections, and some airbrush shading around the edges. And the boots, they're so chonky and geometric, and the way the knee pad moves along with the joint for articulation for the knees. There's sculpt work around the back where it looks like the boot guards are strapped on, and we've got a floating piece that covers up the gap and the articulation on the foot that connects underneath this front armor plating. Leather grain texture on the boot, and underneath some fully sculpted tread. This cape is awesome. Thin, lightweight fabric, just drapes no problem. Wires along the edges, and they're very strong wires. Some people like drape capes, some people like wired capes. This is the first time I can confidently say this is the best of both worlds. It drapes no problem, and the wires are strong enough. I've had no issues getting this to look good in dynamic poses. And of course, underneath the cape, the outfit is fully detailed. They've even sculpted line work on the insert parts for the joints to try and hide them a little bit better. It's around the back anyway, they didn't need to do that. The bottom pieces, they're more successfully hidden versus the top ones because of the different sheen of the plastic they've used for those inner joint pieces. Not the end of the world, like I said, it's on the back. But if there's one single takeaway with all of these close-up shots for me, it's the texture. The difference between all of the different plates and what would be the fabric sections and the strapping, that looks like leather. The buckles, the paint applications to highlight all of that texture. INART, they have delivered the goods with this 1/12 scale Arkham Origins Batman. It's also worth noting the cape is wired all the way up underneath the base of the cowl, so you can get it to sit over the top of his shoulder pads like it's supposed to. For a quick side-by-side comparison, this does not bother me at all. I don't mind my Batman figures being slightly bigger. He's going to scale very well with McFarlane's line, but INART, I don't think your Arkham Origins Batman is 1/12. I reckon it's closer to 1/10 because next to LPZZ Deathstroke, Batman absolutely towers over him. See what I mean? Even next to their own true 1/12 scale Dark Knight Rises Batman, their first 1/12 scale release, Arkham Origins is a lot taller. Once again, it doesn't bother me. I like the larger scale, but if you need everything to scale perfectly and be in true 1/12, just be aware that Arkham Origins Batsy is taller. So, McFarlane scale, maybe? Next to 89 Batman, this looks about right. Keaton isn't the tallest dude in the world, whereas Arkham Origin Batman is 6'2" in-game, but give or take a couple of mil in this scale shrunk down in figure format, this works for me. And lastly, a bit random, but I had to chuck a Marvel Legends figure in there. Batman is way taller than Marvel Legends. This is the retro-carded animated series Spidey, for those wondering. Going over articulation, starting off with Batman's head sculpt, I've got a very good feeling about this. Ball joint at the base of the neck, then a double ball peg underneath the head taking over the rest of the way, looking forward to there, looking up to there, plenty of range for a gliding or grappling pose. swivel, and tons of pivot side to side. This is such an interesting design for the shoulder pads on these rotating rings of sorts. Then with the straps over the top, it's free floating. Arms will go up to there. It's nice and flexible too. Forward and back just gets out of the way. Butterfly at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep. Double bend at the elbow going past 90. Then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. Free floating belt will get out of the way of the midsection, and waist joint crunching all the way forward, which is a crazy amount of range considering how bulky and armored he is. Going back to there, less than forward, but there is some extra sculpt work that reveals itself as you arch his back. Swivel at both joints, then some pivot side to side. Legs drop down at the hips quite far actually, allowing them to go all the way forward. Going out to there, swivel at the hip joint and at the upper thigh. Double bend at the knee, multi-segmented with the armor plate up front for the knee pad going past 90. And finally, a double ball peg for the ankles. Floating armor piece covers the gap, going all the way forward and back. We get plenty of rotation, so much ankle tilt, and lastly, a toe joint. Wrapping up on INART's 1/12-ish scale Arkham Origins Batman. Everything is so good about this, except for maybe the scale. Not a problem for me. I don't care about him being slightly too big. But I know people do worry about scale. Like, it's very important to their displays to have everything scaling perfectly. I totally understand. At least now you know that this Batman does run large, but if you get this guy anyway, or if you just straight up don't care about him being bigger, you are in for a treat, I promise. The detail all over the outfit, the paint applications, how premium he feels, the joints are buttery smooth, the articulation is incredible, 2 head sculpts, wired cape that also drapes very naturally, and a display base to get him in the air doing more acrobatic poses. I cannot imagine an Arkham display without this piece. Now, I got mine as an early review sample direct from INART, popped a link to their site in the description. If you're outside of the regions they serve, China, Australia, and New Zealand, you can grab this on pre-order from Pop Collectibles. Also a link in the description for them, as well as the discount code Justin's Collection for 5% off your order if you decide to buy from them. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. If you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.